A highway near Guatemala's most active volcano just closed, and that closure carries a very specific hard-learned meaning. The same ravine that road crosses helped bury a community in 2018, killing 215 people. Early this August, Fuego Volcano erupted into its most explosive phase of the year, sending pyroclastic flows racing down 6 separate ravines at speeds up to 435 miles per hour, temperatures above 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, forcing roughly 1,700 people into shelters. According to Guatemalan disaster officials, as of the most recent confirmed reports, nobody died. Today, we're breaking down what actually happened at Fuego, why this eruption produced almost the exact same warning signs as the disaster's 7 years ago, and what specifically changed in Guatemala's emergency response since then. No guessing, no dramatizing, just the facts, the science, and the real stakes. What happened at Fuego this week? According to Guatemala's National Institute of Seismology, Volcanology, Meteorology, and Hydrology, known as INSIVUME, activity at Fuego intensified sharply on August 3, 2026, with an eruptive phase beginning around 8:30 a.m. local time. Monitoring parameters continued rising over the following 7 hours as the volcano emitted intense gas, ash, and lava fragments from its crater. By 8 p.m. that evening, pyroclastic density currents, fast-moving mixtures of superheated gas, ash, and rock, were descending both the Sica and Ceniza ravines on the volcano's southwestern flank. According to the watchers, a volcano and earthquake monitoring outlet that cited INSIVUME's official bulletins. The eruption then escalated into what volcanologists call a paroxysmal phase late that evening, with lava fountains reaching 200 to 300 meters, roughly 650 to 1,000 feet above the crater. By early August 4th, pyroclastic flows had expanded into 5 separate ravines, and Guatemala's disaster coordination agency, known as CONRED, declared an institutional orange alert. According to Reuters, authorities ordered preventive evacuations in the communities of El Porvenir and Las Lajitas, both in the municipality of San Juan Alotenango. Roughly 1,000 to 1,700 people, depending on the specific count and date cited across different reports, moved into shelters, including a sports hall set up specifically for displaced residents. CONRED raised the danger warning level to red for 3 municipalities, Zacatepeques, Escuintla, and Chimaltenango, where roughly 29,000 people were affected by ashfall and local schools suspended classes. Why officials called the next 72 hours critical. According to the Associated Press, authorities specifically warned that mud flows up to 7 kilometers, about 4.3 miles long, were continuing to descend from the volcano as of August 4th, with incoming rain expected to increase the risk of additional volcanic mud flows, known as lahars. CONRED's executive director, Claudine Ogaldis, explained why lahars specifically concern officials as much or more than the pyroclastic flows themselves. They're capable of burying entire towns, since they combine volcanic ash, rock, mud, and debris into a fast-moving slurry that can travel well beyond the immediate eruption zone, especially once heavy rainfall mixes with loose volcanic material sitting on the mountain slopes. INSIVUME specifically identified communities located between 7 and 10 kilometers from the crater, particularly in the municipality of San Pedro Yepocapa in Chimaltenango Department, as facing the greatest risk from these pyroclastic currents. As of the most recent reporting reviewed for this video, no casualties had been confirmed from this eruption, and no structures had been reported damaged, though officials continued monitoring the situation closely given the ongoing lahar risk tied to incoming rainfall. The 2018 disaster. This eruption immediately evoked. To understand why this specific eruption drew so much attention from Guatemalan officials and media, you need to understand what happened at this exact volcano 7 years earlier. In June 2018, an eruption at Fuego produced pyroclastic flows and lahars that buried the village of San Miguel Los Lotes, killing at least 215 people, according to figures cited in multiple reports covering this year's eruption. It remains one of the deadliest volcanic disasters in recent Central American history, and National Route 14, the same highway closed during this August's eruption, crosses the same ravine system connected to that 2018 tragedy, a detail Guatemalan officials and residents alike are acutely aware of anytime Fuego shows significant activity. Isaac Garcia, a 43-year-old resident of El Porvenir on the volcano's slopes, told the Associated Press that memory of the 2018 tragedy was specifically what led him and his family to heed evacuation warnings and leave. Early on Monday, rather than waiting to see how the eruption developed further, a direct individual example of how the 2018 disaster continues shaping how nearby residents respond to Fuego's activity today. What actually changed? In Guatemala's response. According to CONRED's own bulletins, cited in reporting on this eruption, Authorities attributed the absence of casualties in this event directly to faster, more coordinated evacuations rebuilt specifically after the 2018 disaster. This is a significant claim worth examining carefully, since it's the central, actionable lesson of this entire story. Following 2018, Guatemala's disaster management infrastructure around Fuego underwent meaningful changes, expanded and more clearly defined evacuation zones, tied to specific ravines and their historical flow paths, improved monitoring by in-situ, allowing earlier detection of escalating activity, and clearer, faster, triggered evacuation orders issued by CONRED once specific activity thresholds are crossed, rather than waiting for a slower, more centralized decision-making process. CONRED Secretary Claudine Ogaldis was direct in her public messaging during this eruption, urging communities in the 3 red alert departments to evacuate if directed and follow official guidance, while confirming that buses remained available to assist with evacuations, logistics specifically designed to reduce the time between an order being issued and residents actually reaching safety. Guatemala's Ministry of Education also suspended classes in nearby towns as a precaution, reducing the number of people, particularly children, who might otherwise have been concentrated in vulnerable locations during the eruption's most active phase. Why this comparison matters beyond Guatemala. This is a pattern we've discussed directly on this channel before, most notably when comparing Japan's minimal casualties from a powerful 2026 earthquake to Venezuela's catastrophic losses from a similarly sized event the same year. The core lesson repeats. Here in a different context, the raw power of a natural hazard, whether an earthquake's magnitude or a volcanic eruption's pyroclastic flow speed and reach, doesn't by itself determine the human cost. Preparedness infrastructure, built specifically in response to a previous tragedy, evacuation planning, public education, faster triggered official response, can measurably change the outcome the next time a similarly dangerous event occurs, even when that event closely resembles the disaster that prompted the changes in the first place. Fuego's August 2026 eruption is, by in-situ own technical assessment, one of the volcano's most explosive episodes of the year, involving genuinely comparable pyroclastic flow activity to what preceded the 2018 tragedy. That similarity is exactly what makes the different outcome, 0 confirmed casualties as of the most recent reporting, worth examining directly rather than treating as simply good fortune. Fuego's ongoing, persistent activity. It's worth placing this eruption in its broader context. Fuego is one of Central America's most consistently active volcanoes, sitting along the Pacific Ring of Fire alongside other frequently erupting volcanoes we've covered on this channel, including Mayon in the Philippines and Kilauea in Hawaii. According to Al Jazeera, Fuego has triggered mass evacuations multiple times in recent years beyond the 2018 disaster and this August's eruption, reflecting a volcano that cycles through periods of heightened activity with some regularity rather than erupting as a rare, isolated event. That frequency is part of why Guatemala's disaster management infrastructure around this specific volcano has had repeated opportunities to be tested and refined in a way that isn't true for volcanoes that erupt far less often. CONRED's evacuation orders for the affected communities remain in place until conditions are confirmed to have improved, with officials continuing to monitor both ongoing pyroclastic flow activity and the separate rain-driven lahar risk along the volcano's ravines. In-situ continues tracking Fuego's eruptive parameters in real time, watching specifically for any further escalation beyond the current paroxysmal phase. Residents in the 3 red alert. Municipalities have been advised to keep water sources covered and use face masks as protection against continued ashfall. Standard precautionary guidance, CONRED has refined through Fuego's repeated eruptive history. An eruption producing pyroclastic flows through the same general ravine system connected to Guatemala's deadliest volcanic disaster in recent memory is the kind of event that, on paper, should draw comparisons to catastrophe. Instead, as of the most recent confirmed reporting, this August's eruption at Fuego produced 0 casualties, a genuinely significant outcome that Guatemalan disaster officials themselves credit directly to the evacuation infrastructure rebuilt in the years since 2018. That's not a story about a volcano behaving differently than it did 7 years ago. Fuego, by every technical measure available, produced comparably dangerous activity this time as well. What changed was how quickly people got warned and how quickly they moved, the same lesson that keeps surfacing across the disaster recovery stories we cover on this channel, from Kumamoto to Venezuela to now Guatemala. We'll keep tracking this story and every other major seismic, volcanic, and extreme weather event happening around the world right now. Subscribe if you want to see the next update. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think enough gets learned from past disasters to actually prevent the next one? See you in the next one.